Good evening, all dignitaries, guests, and the viewers. With great joy and immense exclamation, I welcome you all to this week-long celebration of our very own Honorable Vice Chancellor of DYPIU, Akodi, Professor Prabhat Ranjan Sir, 60th birthday week. Well, it's said a birthday is just another day where you go to work and people give you love. Age is just a state of mind, and you are as old as you think you are. You have to count your blessings and be happy. I am proudly elected to take an opportunity to introduce our Honorable Vice Chancellor. Sir, you hardly need any introduction. You have made all of us proud with your distinguished work in numerous capacities, from ranking first in the Netarhat school state-wise entrance exam to being the first Indian citizen to receive a PhD in nuclear physics. Your journey is an inspiration. We are delighted to have you here with us today. On behalf of entire university, I wish you a very happy birthday, sir.
Thank you, Akanksha. I just wanted to correct. I was PhD in nuclear fusion, nuclear physics. There are a lot of people, so I just wanted to correct for the audience that I was the PhD in nuclear fusion. There are a lot of people who have done nuclear physics PhD much earlier than me. Thank you.
So, you left home at the age of 10. What were your emotions back then?
Yes, as you realize that for most of us, age of 10 sounds very young. I remember when in 1970 I had to go to join my residential school. As you mentioned, I taught the state, and my father fell sick. So I was living in part of Bihar near a place called Kishanganj, which is near Bengal border, near Siliguri town. I had to travel to Ranchi, which is about 500 kilometers. My father was to take me there in a bus, but he fell sick at the last minute. So one of my cousin brother, he was accompanying me. And around 4 o'clock in the morning, we came to the bus stand, and my mother and father came to see me off. My mother was crying, and what was my response? I told her that, why are you crying? I'm going for a good work. You should not be crying. So I was fully confident. I had no concerns. And I felt that I'm going there for a good purpose. And my mother should not be crying. Of course, mother will be emotionally something else. But I was not at all scared of anything. Even at that age. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, sir, that was very brave of you. So, we have always heard about your academy achievements. So, what did you do in your spare time, basically?
So at different stages of my life, I have done things in spare life indifferently. If I go back to my Netarhat school days, I was a child who was not very interested in physical activity, but we can come back to that point later on. One of the things that I did was planchetting. So at the age of maybe around 12 or I don't know, maybe 13, I used to be involved in calling spirits at night. And many people knew me in the school because of that. Of course, it was all hidden from my school teachers, because normally we were supposed to sleep at night at 9:30. And our housemaster used to come and check that all of us in the bed. But I would get up after that. And there were 3 people you have to join to do this. So I did spend a good amount of time on this in the night. But in addition to that, I had interest in mathematics. And one of my teachers, he used to not solve problems. He used to actually only give problems on the board and ask that, you go and work on this. And whoever solves problem first would actually be asked to come to the board. So some of us actually trying to be the first to solve went to libraries picked up all the mathematics books and solved the problems that may come. So, for example, there was one book by Loni. I used to do that. There was a Vedic mathematics books I used to spend. So I used to did spend time on mathematics, and I was well known. I used to play with magic squares and lot of various things which were not correct, but you could prove them right. Like every angle is right angle, every triangle is isosceles, and so on. So I did spend a lot of time on that. In addition, with some of my friends, I used to go to do various experiments. I'll not take their names. One of them was trying to make a rocket, and we didn't have
Wow.
ways of doing it, so we used the Diwali, rockets, and we used to use ones and we used to put our own chemicals in there. We also tried taking, I don't know if people have seen this nowadays, there used to be distilled water for injection purpose. There used to be a glass tube with a pointed nose. We used to break that and put chemicals in that and try to see if it can lift off. Of course, it would go around but not go up. It would go around the room and things like that. And we did a lot of experiments with chemical thing. I also did experiments with the chemical gardens and things like that, for which I remember purchasing. It was our monthly expenses were only 4 rupees per month. But I took a special permission to buy a book of 5 rupees that was very expensive at that time for chemical gardens. I used to do that. So I did many such things. And later on, we were made to learn actually metalworks and woodwork in our workshop in the first year. I remember maybe in class 9th, I went back as a hobby. I took that to go back to metalwork. Similarly, I did French classes. Uh, so I used to do many things in the school time. Later on, of course, in the college days, we were a little restricted by, I remember we formed a maths club. We did not have a place where we could meet. The department did not allow us to meet, give a classroom, so we used to go and meet in the library and discuss mathematics related interesting things. A few of them became mathematicians, although we were all part of physics department. Uh, at Kharagpur, I was interested in bridge and chess. And to tell you interestingly, the chess helped me a lot during the ragging period. Ragging period in IITs is considered very bad. I joined in 1976 when there was an emergency in the country. So due to emergency, everybody
Wow.
was scared. So there was little less ragging, but what happened was that suddenly seniors realized that I was good in chess. And so some of the good chess players who were seniors to me, they wanted me to come and play with them. And they used to kind of shelter me, so I used to play chess with them. So, and then bridge, I started playing, and I started to top in the IIT Kharagpur, competitions. But quickly we realized that every Friday and Saturday night we had to be playing bridge whole night as part of the various competitions. It used to happen almost every weekend. So for 1 year I did that, and then it became a little too much because I was graduating, final year was coming in. So I have done many different kind of things in a spare time. Maybe we can move ahead. Thank you. Something else I remember, I'll point it out.
Childhood has always been delightful for everybody. So, could you please share some experience during your time at Berkeley? What difficulties and things you had to face while performing research in nuclear fission?
So when let me first recall incident as to how I got into nuclear fusion. I had
Yes,
never
sir.
taken a flight in my life. In those days, it was too expensive. I was not from a super rich family that we could take flight. We used to travel in trains and buses. My first flight was to US in 1981 when I was going to do my PhD. And it was a flight to Tokyo. And in Tokyo, I had to wait for about 20 hours and then take the connecting flight to San Francisco. That time, we didn't have direct flights. Uh, I was already very exhausted, actually, to be frank, with all the visa formalities, travel issues, this, that. And the flight was sometime in 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, very odd hours. The number of my relatives, parents, friends, classmates who had come to see me off, there were maybe 25, 30 people. Taking a flight and going abroad was a big thing that time. So everybody had come to see me off. But we didn't have a place. So in Jawaharlal Nehru University, JNU in Delhi, uh, one of my uncle was there. So we went there. It was close to airport. We were waiting on the boundary walls of the campus, just talking to each other in night. One of my uncles, mamas, he had also come to see me off. In fact, he had actually sponsored half of my trip at that time, and so it cost 6,000 rupees to travel to US. Of course, 6,000 nowadays sounds very small money, but that time it was big money. And he asked me this question that what kind of research you're going to do? You're going to US, but what kind of research you're going to do? And actually, for all practical purpose, I had worked in my master's in astrophysics, theory of relativity. I worked with Dr. Jayant Sunalkar, very, very famous scientist. Right now he's in Pune itself, of course, quite old. With him, I worked on black holes in the 81 summer. And so all my statement to purpose, everything that I've sent to Berkeley was based on this, that I'm going to work in astrophysics and relativity. But when my uncle asked me this question, suddenly something happened in my mind. And then I thought to myself that how will black holes and astrophysics help country? So I must do something else which is important to country. And out of no planning, no thinking, I told him that either I will work on nuclear fusion or I will work on space physics. None of this I had planned any time. So it suddenly happened in the night, at the midnight when we were sitting in the JNE boundary. And I mentioned this to him. So when I went to Berkeley, I was actually uh, taken because of the astrophysics and other things. So people who were faculty members who were in that, they were familiar with me because they had gone through my application. I used to attend the seminars, weekly seminars, but at the same time, I tried preparing myself for nuclear fusion or space physics. For both of these, we had to take plasma physics courses. So first year we had common courses. Second year we had to take specialized courses. So I took plasma physics courses and actually eventually moved into nuclear fusion. In 1983, I started doing my research. So I got into nuclear fusion in a very different way. At that time, I had no idea as to whether nuclear fusion work is being done in the country or not being done in the country. What is my prospect if I come back to India and things like that. I had never thought of staying back in US. I had only planned to go for my study and come back. So that was always in my mind. It was not the moment I thought about this. Just to share a few experiences, research is of course one thing that I'll come back to, but some of the interesting experiences that I faced. First one, we reached USA. There was another person from Delhi University, Dr. Shobit Madan. He's a professor at Delhi University right now. Both of us were traveling to the same campus, so we came to know and we went together. When we reached US, we were faced with a problem. There was, I think, some kind of strike with immigration authorities. We had to wait in the airport for 4 hours almost before we could get out. When I went to the Berkeley, we had a place in the international students' house where I had a room. And when I went there, and the mess was closed, so I had to eat out. I went to a restaurant to eat, and you have these fountains, drinking water fountains that now we are familiar in India, but that time in India we had not seen those things. I tried to drink water from that. All the water came splashing over me because I didn't know how to drink water with that. We also had jet lag, so while waiting for one of my faculty member's wife to come and take us to her house, she was going to host us for 3 days. We were sitting on the bench outside and we fell asleep. So in the daytime, we were lying on the bench sleeping for several hours before our host came. So many such experiences were there. One more experience that I would like to share with the viewers was that for a few days before we could start eating the mess, things were mess was closed. But maybe I'll discuss this a little later when some of other guests join us.
Wish you a very happy 60th birthday, sir. Thank you for being the person that you are. Lucky to be with you.
Hi, I'm Vijay Shah, Director of School of Design. I feel honored to be a part of our VC 60th birthday celebrations. Sir, your accomplishments are an inspiration. Your dedication and determination motivate us to excel in life. Happy birthday to you, sir.
Many happy returns of the day, Professor Prabhat Ranjan, sir, the Honorable Vice Chancellor DYPIU. This is Dr. Madhura Jagtap, Director of School of Skills Development and Control of Examinations, DYPIU. I find myself one of those lucky ones who got a chance to closely work with Ranjan sir right from the formative stage of DYPIU. There were a lot of opportunities and challenges too, but due to progressive, innovative and experimental nature of Ranjan sir, it's been an amazing experience and a great learning opportunity for all of us. Thank you.
वीडियो प्ले हो रहा है।
So you have spent most.
Okay, I think Akansha has gone
Hello,
offline.
sir.
Can you hear Akansha?
Yes, sir. So you have spent most
I
of
would
your
continue. We
academic
are not
life
able to
in
hear you
courses.
properly.
Do you
So
think?
I'll continue with where we left last. So when I reached the US
Yes, sir.
in
Sure,
the
sir.
first few days, we had to eat out, and that was very expensive.
Yes, sir.
Uh, after a couple of months, we had a Thanksgiving holiday, which happens in US, I think, sometime late October or early part of November, where for 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, everything is closed. And so mess is also closed. So at that time, there were about 23 people from India that we were in that international restaurant's house. I decided it would be very expensive to eat out for all the 4 days. So we had two kitchens in the international restaurant's house where you could cook your own food. So I organized, there was a faculty wives association which used to lend, kitchen utensils and other things. You have to only deposit some $5 or $10 and take all that, and then you can return that back, and they'll give you back the $10. So actually, I organized along with all of my 23 friends who were available. I'm not sure whether all 23 were available, but I think maximum number of them were there. I went and we brought all the utensils. We organized cooking in the kitchen. We're not experts of cooking, but slowly we learned. Sorry, I got disconnected, I think. So I organized getting all the utensils from Faculty Wives Association. And then for all the 4 days, we did group cooking, we helped each other, and actually we could survive through those 4 days at lower cost. And that came very handy for long time, because in the US we used to cook all the time on our own. And till today we are doing that. Okay, good. Akansha, you're back. I think we can talk later.
Yes, sir. So I wanted to ask you, sir, you have spent most of your academic life in hostel. Do you think it has influenced your perspective in life?
So, as you mentioned, starting from age of 10, we I was outside my home. So it made me very self-dependent. I was independent thing, not only in terms of doing physical things. In fact, lockdown, it was very handy, but even before lockdown, I used to do a lot of cooking, cleaning. Many times I was in Delhi also, I used to do it myself for months together. But
Wow.
also in decision making and sticking to something that I took. I did not have to look for support from even my parents. Most of the time, I take a decision, implement it, and then inform it. And this I'm talking from the school days itself. And that has continued till now, where I am independent. And if I take a decision that I stick to it, whether it is going to be right or wrong in long term, mostly I've been proven right. But so that has helped me prepare myself as an individual who can be on his own. I do not need a support system, both for psychological needs, physical needs, and so on, or emotional needs. So that's something that has been very handy. I just wanted to mention a couple of other incidents from my school days, which are very important. So I was good in mathematics, as I mentioned that I used to go to library and be ready with the problems to resolve. So many times I would go to the board as the teacher would give a problem, quickly we solve and go to the board. But there was another interesting incident that happened. One of my geometry teachers, in geometry, normally you have to prove, you have to write, you have to prove a theorem, you have to make construction of geometrical figures and so on, and you have to go to board and solve that. So one day he suddenly said that, okay, today I'm going to do an experiment. I would give a problem, but you would close your eyes, do not look at the board. You imagine and tell what construction you would do, and somebody else will do it on your behalf, but you will not be doing it. You close your eyes, imagine what is being done, and then you prove it. So he asked if there are any volunteers. So I went there and turned around and not looking at the board, closed my eyes. Actually did that. That was a very good experiment. I'm mentioning this to viewers because some of these are important from child education. So many things we did in the school has had influence in this, and which affected not only in IT but also in Berkeley. Uh, let's come back to the US life. In terms of research, uh, I was very interested in computer, although I was doing physics. When I was in Kharagpur, and that time I got first introduced to computer, it was a course in Fortran programming language. I think it was in 1977 or 78, I don't remember exactly. When the teacher took the first class, and that time we did not have laptop or smartphone or computers as easily as is available now, so we used to do it on pen and paper. He was trying to solve a problem on the board, and he got stuck somewhere. And I actually went and helped him out so that he can do the rest of the steps. And I was very interested in computer, but we were not allowed to use computers. So I used to go, and there was punching card system. I used to go and work in the punching cards and give it to my electronics friend who were allowed to use computers. And this uh, interest continued. And when I went to US, this interest continued. I remember that I wanted to use computer, but we didn't have immediate access to computer. There was an old computer kept at the ground floor, 8 floors below the ground actually. I was very scared, and I used to go and try to work on those, but those never worked properly. So uh, as a child, and then that experience continued. Maybe I'll cover some of this later on.
So we have a very special message and a song performance for your birthday.
So happy birthday. May you live to be 103. It's a happy birthday. A happy birthday to you. Take a bow on your birthday. Your birthday. Your birthday. Show it how on your birthday you can still look as good as new. Have a happy birthday. May you live to be 103. It's a happy birthday. A happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
That was a beautiful performance by Brinda. Thank you, Brinda, for such a lovely song. So, yesterday you mentioned to Isha that IIT Kharagpur that you chose physics over electric engineering in IIT Kharagpur. I wonder if you always knew that you wanted to do PhD in nuclear fission. So,
I think I got disconnected. There is a lot of disturbance in the internet because of the storm yesterday.
yes, sir.
So,
So
if
should
you
I
ask,
repeat my question again?
yeah, please repeat your question. I could not hear that.
So yesterday you mentioned to Isha that IIT Kharagpur you chose studying physics over electric engineering. Well, I wonder if you always wanted to do PhD in nuclear fission.
So actually, when I was in school days, I had mentioned this yesterday that some stage I decided that I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to do research in physics. In the school days, at that time, I had interest in particle physics. Working about elementary particles, not only electron, proton, neutron, but going further deep down into those. When I came to Delhi University, at that time I moved to astrophysics and so on. So it was not really, I was not interested in nuclear fusion per se at the beginning. I wanted to be a scientist in physics. When I went to Kharagpur, and that time we did not have online admissions. So if you got selected, you were given a day to come to a particular IIT, the ones that we chose. And there were faculty members from different IITs and BHUIT. So 6 institutes used to conduct their admissions together. And you could tell them that I want the admission in a particular branch. If the seat is available, they will give it to you, otherwise they'll give ask you for the next option. So when my chance came, I asked them that I want to do physics. So the faculty members were a little surprised because physics was not the first choice in IIT. And I was reasonably high ranked. So they asked me that, no, why do you want to do physics? So I said that I have interest in physics. So then they tried to convince me that, why don't you take something else? You take, like BHUIT position, you take electronics, somebody else said something else. And I kept saying that, no, I want the physics. Then a long time was passing, 10 minutes and 12 minutes, and other people used to come and just 1 minute they'll go out. So they called my father saying that this boy doesn't know what he's doing. He's making mistakes. Today he will take physics. Tomorrow he will realize that he's made a mistake. You want engineering. So it will become very difficult. So we are suggesting a solution that he takes electrical engineering now. We can give that branch, and electrical is very close to physics. So later on, if he wants to change from electrical to physics, we will change it. So I more out of getting frustrated there, trying to convince them. I said, okay, fine, you go ahead. So they put me in electrical engineering, but I never wanted to be in that. So I continued my pursuit for being in physics. When I came back home yesterday, my brother mentioned that I was not happy at all. So very first day when I reached and joined IIT Kharagpur, I gave an application that please change my branch to physics. And since the courses were common at that time, we did not have difference in the first year. So I was attending the same courses, same subjects. So after about 15 days time, they actually changed me back to physics. And I continued my journey in physics. So I stuck to my this thing. I was not worried about what others feel I should be doing. Rather, I want to do what I wanted to do. And that I've stuck to till now.
So before I go to the next question, let's listen to a very special message for you from our registrar sir.
As a leader, you have guided us on each step of the way. We appreciate that a lot. And on your big day, we wish you great success and well-being. Happy birthday, sir.
You're going to ask next question, or should I continue?
Yes, sir. So could you please share some experience during your time when you were doing your PhD in California? What difficulties and you had to face when you were researching for your nuclear fission?
So, as I mentioned that I joined in 1981, and we had to do almost 2 years of coursework. So 1983, finally, I could join my full-time research work in nuclear fusion. That was the first time, and nuclear fusion, for my research work, I had to work in Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory. So in University of California, Berkeley was the place where first cyclotrons were invented. And these made a huge impact because the number of artificial elements, 14 artificial elements were invented in those. And Lawrence, in fact, there was a separate lab created called Lawrence Berkeley Lab, and in his name. And it had other names, but later on, I think after his death, they changed the name to Lawrence Berkeley Lab. I remember that particular cyclotron was invented in a particular hall called LeConte Hall in Building and Physics, room number 326, where we had the opportunity to teach later on, very historical room. So I had to work, my faculty, my supervisor was both faculty at University of California, Berkeley, as well as scientist at a very senior scientific head of department. He was quite senior. He was at Lawrence Berkeley Lab. So actually for my research, I moved to Lawrence Berkeley Lab. These are all both close by. In about 10 minutes time, you could move. So first time actually I got my hands on the computer. And my interest in computer drove me to not focus on my PhD problem first, but learning more about computers. And the first thing I did was to try to see how I can write in Hindi and send letters. And at that time, whatever computer was available, I used that. In 1984, Apple released Macintosh. So now you hear about Apple iPhones and so on. That time, Macintosh was the first one which made Apple popular. It has very good user interface. And the first time there was a demonstration in lab, I went to see that. People are amazed to see that you have fonts, you have bold, you have italics, you have underline, you have fonts of different size. In fact, I remember one of the scientists asking the question that suppose you print this, will it come out looking like this itself? And so the demonstrator actually printed it, showed, and people were amazed that you could have a computer like this with print like this. So I was also very fascinated. And immediately many scientists actually ordered these computers, Macintosh computers, which were very fancy, but costing less than $1,000 at that time. But if somebody has to come and install from the company, it used to cost a good amount of money, almost equivalent to the cost of the computer. So 2-3 scientists from my lab actually ordered those computers. And when the package arrived, I offered that I'm going to install it for you. Of course, I had no idea about them. So I opened the package, went through the instruction manual, and installed the first one that came. So because I had installed, the scientists allowed me to use this computer when they were not in the room. So I used to stay a little late in the evening. So I started using that. And then the second one came and they said that, okay, since you've done the first one, why didn't you install the second one? So I did the second one and third one like that. And I had access to these computers, even though I did not have my own. And so again, I continued trying to develop Devanagari fonts on the computer. I did that. I could write in Hindi or my native language, Mathili, and send letters back home. Yesterday, my brother mentioned about some of these. And also, I made it to speak Hindi. So you could actually type a text and give it to computer and to speak synthesis, it could speak in Hindi. Of course, it's not very natural sounding. So I did all these things. It came to an extent that when I was returning back to India, one of my secretary in my group, he wrote to Apple that please don't let him go back. He knows too much about Macintosh computers. But that computer thing, my work, when I started doing my research work, whatever problem my supervisor gave, I found that after working for 2-3 months on that problem, that time we did not have the internet that we see today, so you couldn't search it so easily. I went to a lot of literature, went to library and spent time. I found that somebody in Germany had done a similar kind of work. So I mentioned to my supervisor that this work had already been done in Germany. And so he said that, okay, fine, then you stop on this work, and then he was going to Germany. In fact, he was a German origin person. He said, I'm going to Germany next year, and I would get a copy of that PhD thesis. Then he asked me to work on something that a postdoc was working before me. And the postdoc actually person had, after spending 1 year, he said that whatever this problem is, that does not have a positive result. It is negative. So this idea cannot be pursued. So my supervisor actually gave it to me, that why don't you work on this? And to be frank, for almost first 1 year, I didn't understand much. I was trying to do modeling of that, and we had the world's fastest computers to work with. That time, Cray computers were very fast, super fast in the world. For the whole US and Japan, we used to have a computer center in a place called Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, which is actually a lot of classified work happens there. I had never visited them, but computer was there, so we had to use it from remote. So I started to try to do modeling without understanding much. Interesting thing happened, and I tell my faculty members also here that we were asked as a PhD student to give a talk every semester, and the talk had to be on a topic which was not exactly related to your research work. So I chose a topic which was not exactly related to my research work, but it was close enough. When I was preparing for that, and you had to give talk to all the top faculty members who were there. It was not only physics department, but electrical people, there were space sciences laboratory, Lawrence Berkeley lab, and all the people used to come together for a weekly meeting. So I prepared for that talk, and while preparing for that talk, actually I could understand what my real problem I have to solve and how to solve it. And then it did not take more than 6 months time to actually solve the problem. And effectively, that giving that talk helped me a lot in trying to solve this problem. And the other thing that I remember was that for solving this problem, as I had to use a lot of computers, I did not have direct access to computer since that I had to be work from a distance. We used to get only 3 minutes of CPU time to actually work on this computer. That means the whole day you will get only 3 minutes of CPU time. You have to optimize that time maximum. So actually, I had to work on the code uh, tremendously so that I could reduce the computation time. And I did many things actually which reduced the time by about running time by about 7 to 8 times. And that made me learn. So I did a lot of computer modeling, and I continued that when I came back to India. Maybe I'll come back to that story tomorrow when I talk about my experience in India. But another interesting thing that happened was that so when I went to uh, do my, I was doing the computer modeling, and Macintosh had come. Something else interesting happened where we found that uh, so the there was a Macintosh computer on which I was working. By the time I was finishing my thesis, I got my Macintosh of my own, and I had to write thesis, which had to be actually approved by the publication division of Lawrence Berkeley Lab before it can be published. Any papers, any thesis had to be accepted by the publication division for its quality and so on, and they have to put it in a standard format. Now they were not using the same system. So it was a Wang word processing system. It was being used secretary in the publication division. I had to write my thesis, which might have been 100 to 200 pages. The system was there that if you write on Macintosh, you have to print it out, and somebody else has to type it back into the Wang word processing system. And then after that, they will type and then send it to the publication division. I felt it was too much of a task that I type 100 to 200 pages with all the equations and graphs and everything, and the secretary has to again retype all of it. And it will, of course, not only waste my time, but her time as well. So I decided that is there a way that I can actually transfer the file directly to Wang word processing system? Nothing existed at that time. Of course, the internet was not there, the emails you could not use, and so on. So I started working on this, and we had to use something called a Pascal compiler at that time, the native language operating system of Macintosh was Pascal. So I did not know Pascal, so I learned Pascal. And within 3 months, I developed a software and the system so that I could connect the two computers by wire, transfer my document into Wang word processing system with all the formatting, the equations, everything intact. So it was not simply transferring the text, but everything else intact. And did that successfully. And actually, we could transfer everything. I had a lot of learning for that. We don't have time to go into detail. I think I have a blog on this. When I needed the Pascal compiler, I went to computer science division there and requested them that can you lend me a Pascal compiler. So one of the scientists there, I think his name was Dr. Van Jacobson. He's a very famous computer scientist now. He lent me that. And so I take that time we used to have floppies. So I brought the floppies to my lab and worked on this. After I finished sending my thesis and all that, I went to return him back. He asked me that what kind of work we were doing with this. So I explained to him what I was doing. Then he asked me that which area you're doing PhD in. So I told him that I'm working in nuclear fusion as part of physics department. So he said that why were you doing this? So I said that no, this was the problem that I had to work on Macintosh and the secretary had to work on Wang word processing system. So I had to actually work on this. And then he said that, can you give me the source code? So I said, I can give you the source code, but it is not commented and so on and so forth. He said, no problem. I said, okay, fine. So I gave it to him. Then I came back to India, and of course I was not in touch that time. We couldn't have internet. Maybe after a couple of years, I could establish contact. In fact, I set up email system in Calcutta at that time. Then the secretary informed me that the software I developed became very popular in the lab, everybody started to use that because it was a problem that everybody was facing in the law and Berkeley lab. They published in their local magazines, and that was my first what is called open source software because it was a source code that I shared, and it became very popular. So, in addition to doing my research work, many things that I learned, whether it's developing in the fonts or developing software, uh, actually influenced my life later on also because I continued to solve problems which are not necessarily directly related to my work at that time, but it helped me later on as we will go along. So let's take up the new question, next question if you have one.
We are done for today.
So we
Thank you
actually were
so much.
expecting a few guests to join us. One of my friend Tom
Yes, sir.
George, he was
Yes,
not
sir.
coming, and so I will probably share before starting. We have 10 minutes time. Maybe we'll share something that they might have shared. So
We really
one of the
wish
things
they
that
were there.
was so yeah, I'll just share one incident because Tom George
Yes, sir.
was going to join us. He's from India actually. He
Yes,
did his
sir.
bachelor's in IIT Madras. He came 1 year after me, and he joined me. He became my roommate at Berkeley, and so we were quite close. I used to become the good cook actually, and one of the reasons for that was one of my American friends printed out Indian recipes and gave it to me. That time internet was not there, but it was the early version of internet, so from that he printed out. So I used to do all the special cooking, and of course we had regular cooking to be done. And Tom George would have talked about that because we were sharing the things, but there were many other things that he would have liked to share. In fact, we're trying to collaborate on a space research right now. We had another guest that we're expecting, Siddharth Chaube, who was my schoolmate from age of 10. He was Chief Administrative Officer of Haldia Port Trust. For some reason, he also could not join. So maybe if we get a chance on other days, we will let them join. So we can probably stop here.
Thank you so much, sir. That was indeed motivating and extremely informative. We are so honored and privileged to have you among us. I further like to thank our dear audience for investing their precious time. This was Mia Kansha Verma signing off for today. Stay safe,
Thank you. Thank
stay
you so much.
home. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.